So you can choose whatever position you'd like to get started in. Something that feels supported and allows you to find a little bit of connection with the ground. You might choose to lay on your back or on your side or find a seated position. And once you've found that position that works for you, take a moment to notice every place where your body touches down on the ground or on some other point of contact. And at each one of those places, let yourself get a little bit heavier, a little bit more connected. And at each one of those points of contact where you've settled a part of your body into the mat, take a moment to relax and release any muscles surrounding that area. So, for example, as you settle your heels or the sides of your feet into the floor, releasing the inner arches of the feet, tops of the feet, calves, and muscles of the shin. Slowly working your way either up from the ground, up from the toes, or down from the top of the head. Consciously releasing and relaxing any areas of tightness or strain. And once you feel settled, starting to bring some attention to your breathing. Allowing your body to fill up on the inhale and soften and release on the exhale. Noticing where you find movement as you inhale and exhale. And noticing any sensation that comes with that. As an example, when you inhale, you might notice your shoulders lift a little bit, your chest expands as your lungs fill up, maybe your belly rises. And then as you exhale, maybe the opposite happens. Maybe as your chest expands, you notice a little bit more the muscles between your shoulder blades and across the front of your chest. As they're stretched just a little bit further when you breathe in, and you soften a little bit more when you breathe out. Taking a moment to explore the sensation that you do feel and explore where it extends to. Noticing where that sensation starts and where it stops. Once you've found a slow, deep, steady breath that works for you, take note of how that feels. Continue to use that slow, steady breath throughout the practice. As you continue to focus on the breath, we'll start to bring a little bit of movement back into fingers and toes, maybe circling wrists and ankles, turning the head from side to side. Bringing everything back to stillness. And we'll start off with some reclined position. So if you're not there already, making your way onto your back on the mat, moving any props out of the way. All the way down onto the ground and draw the knees in towards the chest, wrapping hands either around shins or hamstrings, and then gently rocking from side to side, pressing the low back into the mat, massaging the low back, and gently, slowly rocking side to side. Bring the body back to stillness, and let's extend the legs out to the top of the mat. We'll extend our arms up overhead, and let's reach our fingertips away from our toes, lengthening the whole line of the body. As we inhale, let's stretch fingers and toes away from one another, and as we exhale, let's let everything soften, bending slightly through the elbows, through the knees, letting the toes rock open. As we inhale, reaching long, finding some energy through the body. And as we exhale, softening, letting everything release. We'll do that 3 more times, alternating between reaching and softening. And then we'll bring the knees back in towards the chest, and we'll rock gently side to side. Let's take the arms out into a T shape or cactus arms with a 90-degree bend at the elbow. Take an inhale at center, and on an exhale, let's let the knees fall over towards the left side of the mat, allowing the knees to stack one on top of the other. And if it's comfortable, pressing the right shoulder down into the floor, extending the right arm up to the side, maybe turning to look towards those right fingertips. You can shift your shoulders slightly to the left to bring the spine into a more straight line if you'd like. And then we'll work with gravity and work with breath here. Inhaling, filling up, creating a little bit more space in the body. And exhaling to find some softness. Gradually allowing yourself to settle down a little bit more deeply, one breath at a time. Focusing here not just on your legs and your right shoulder, but also on the rest of the back, on the left arm, on the feet, finding softness throughout the body. From here, let's take a nice deep breath in. As we exhale, we'll guide those knees all the way up through center and over towards the right side, letting them drop down onto the floor once again. This time twisting in the other direction, upper body opens towards the left. As much as you comfortably can, anchor down through the knees and the left shoulder this time. If you'd like, you can turn to look towards your left fingertips, bringing the twist into your neck. Remember, you have the option to shift your shoulders a little bit to the right to line up the spine if you'd like. As we breathe in, let's make some room. Maybe even let that top knee lift up a little bit as you breathe in. And as you breathe out, find some softness. Find a little bit more of the body to connect with the ground. Easing into the pose just a little bit at a time. Gradually softening and releasing. And let's take one more slow, deep breath in here. And as we exhale, we'll guide both knees all the way back up to center. And we'll release the feet down onto the ground. From here, let's take hold of opposite elbows or opposite wrists. And we'll bring the arms up overhead to frame the face. Letting the arms relax down onto the ground. If holding onto elbows or wrists doesn't work for you, you can spread the arms apart as far as you need to so that you can comfortably rest the backs of your arms down onto the ground. Two options for the legs here. You can do Baddha Konasana, bound ankle, letting the knees fall open and bottoms of the feet come together, or more of a stretch. If you'd like more of a relaxation pose, more of a focus on the upper body, you can take your feet mat distance apart and allow your knees to rest against each other. So it's an internal versus external rotation of the hips. Taking whichever variation works for you, and then allowing the focus to be the upper body. Finding a place where there's a little bit of a stretch along the outside edges of the torso, maybe through the shoulders, maybe through the triceps. And taking your time to breathe into it. If after a few breaths you find that you're feeling more intensity versus less, you can always choose a more gentle variation, moving your arms further apart. And if after a few breaths you find that you've released a little bit and you want to move into a deeper variation, you can move the arms a little bit closer together, maybe taking hold of wrists or elbows if you weren't there already. If your arms rest completely comfortably on the floor, you can focus on the back. Finding connection between the upper back and the mat is pretty simple in this pose, but can you find connection between the lower back and the mat while keeping your arms relaxed and down? If you do have your legs in bound angle, it's not likely you'll be able to connect your low back with the mat. So taking that variation only if you're in the internal rotation version. Finding release through the wrists and through the hands, relaxing the jaw. And taking just a few more deep breaths here. And when you're ready, releasing your arms back down alongside the body. We'll bring the legs back into a neutral position. So feet are about hip distance apart. Feet, knees, and hips are all in line, almost like tracks on a train. From here, let's extend the arms down alongside the body. We'll press the palms down into the mat. Let's walk the heels back towards the hips as close as we comfortably can, so the fingertips reach towards the heels. Draw the shoulder blades together and down the back, pressing them into the mat. And then if you are already feeling quite a bit of a stretch across the front of the chest, you can stay there. If you'd like to take it a little bit deeper, take a nice deep breath in, and then on the exhale, lift the hips up off the ground, coming into a low bridge. You can stay there. Maybe if you're feeling a stretch along the front of the hips or again across the front of the chest, you can stay where you are. If you're not feeling it just yet and you wanted to move a little bit deeper, you could walk your shoulders under your back and join your hands together, bringing the palms towards one another, interlacing the fingers, and drawing the knuckles forward and down. Again, this might intensify the stretch across the front of the chest or along the front of the body. So being mindful of how you're feeling. Find a position where you're able to comfortably breathe in that slow, steady rhythm. Filling the body up and then softening a little bit with each exhale. We won't be here for too long. Taking 3 more deep breaths. And then with an exhale, releasing all the way back down onto the ground. From here, let's cross the right knee over top of the left. You can walk your left foot closer towards the middle of your mat if that's easier for you. And then we'll find eagle arms. To start with, let's take the left arm across the front of the chest so the left fingertips are reaching towards the right side of the room. And we'll loop the right elbow around the left, and you can either just draw that left arm in towards the body if you already feel a stretch between your shoulder blades. Or you can find a bind, bringing the backs of your forearms together. Either the backs of the hands touch, or you wrap them around so the palms touch. From here, let the shoulders soften down the back. If your arms are in the eagle bind, you can move your elbows up towards your face and then move your hands further away from your face. And you can leave your legs where you are. If you'd like to bring them into a twist, you can let them fall over towards the left side of your mat. And take 1 or 2 slow, deep breaths in here. And then if you're in the twist, slowly coming out. Keep holding the arms for another moment. You can uncross the legs, placing the feet down about hip distance apart. Breathe into the space between the shoulder blades. And then on an exhale, release the arms out into a T position and pause. Allow the palms to face up, fingertips to curl inwards. And then we'll get ready to do the same thing on the other side, starting by stepping the right or left foot towards the middle of the mat. Right foot towards the middle of the mat, crossing the left knee over the right knee. Then we'll take the right arm across the front of the body and hook the left elbow around the right elbow, drawing it inwards. Taking a moment to check in, maybe choosing to stay here. If you're already feeling an intense stretch along the back of the right shoulder blade, this is a good spot to stop. If you're not feeling it there and you want to come into a bind, choosing eagle arms, you can bring your elbows towards the midline of the body and line up the forearms so the backs of the forearms touch. And maybe the backs of the hands touch, or maybe you wrap around so that your palms touch. Draw the shoulders down the back. And if your arms are in the eagle bind, you can move your elbows up towards your head and move your hands further away from your face. And again, on this side, you can stay in a neutral spinal position, or you can come into a twist, letting the knees drop over towards the right. Again, we'll just breathe 1 or 2 deep breaths here. And then we'll bring the knees all the way back up to center and uncross the legs, letting the feet be about hip distance apart, stacking them on the floor. We'll take another couple of breaths with the arms bound or not, breathing into that space between the shoulder blades. And take a nice deep breath in, the deepest one so far. And then on an exhale, release the arms out into T with palms facing up, and pause there for a moment, noticing any sensation through the shoulders, through the chest, through the arms. And from here, we'll make our way up to a seated position. So you can either roll over to one side and sit up, or draw the knees into the chest and rock forwards and backwards until you're able to come all the way up. You can choose to sit on the floor or on some kind of a prop or a piece of furniture. Find an upright seated position, grounding equally through both sides of the body. Maybe allowing yourself to sit up a little bit more tall. And we'll start with some gentle shoulder movements, lifting the shoulders up towards the ears and then squeezing them together, drawing them down the back. As we inhale, lifting up, and as we exhale, drawing down. Really taking your time here, focusing on squeezing the shoulder blades together. And we'll change direction, go the other way. Still inhaling to lift up, but then exhaling, rolling the shoulders forward, spreading the shoulder blades nice and wide, creating a little bit more space between the shoulder blades, feeling the ribs spread apart, feeling the shoulder blades spread apart. Bringing the shoulders back to stillness. Let's drop the chin down towards the chest. We'll roll the chin over towards one shoulder. Go all the way back down through center and over to the other side. Taking your time here. And if you'd like, you can match your movement with your breath, maybe inhaling up to one shoulder and exhaling down to center. If you feel like you want to pause in any one area to take a longer, deeper stretch, you're welcome to that. Bringing the head all the way back to center. From here, let's take the right ear down towards the right shoulder. We'll soften the left shoulder down, and if you'd like, you can walk your left fingertips out onto the mat, finding a gentle stretch along the left side of the neck, maybe down into the shoulder. You can stay here, or you can bring your right hand up onto your left ear, guiding that left ear up and over. Continuing to breathe slow and steady. Lengthening up as you breathe in and rooting down as you breathe out. From here, let's continue allowing the head to tilt towards the right side, but we'll drop the chin down towards the shoulder so that the stretches move to a little bit of a different place on the neck. Again, here are the options to have your left arm extended out onto the floor and maybe have your hand resting on the back of your head. Finding length all along the side of the neck. This time maybe a little bit closer to the spine, a little bit further back for me. Breathing in, lengthening, and breathing out, softening. And let's release. We'll come all the way back up. Take a moment to roll through the neck or the shoulders if you want to. And then we'll take it over to the other side, starting with bringing the left ear down towards the left shoulder. If you'd like, you can walk your right fingertips out onto the ground and perhaps bring your left hand up onto your right ear, guiding that ear up and over, finding length along the right side of the neck. Breathing into any tension that's there, finding some space with each inhale and some softness with each exhale. And once again, continuing with the tilt to the left, we'll drop the chin down towards the shoulder. So we're tilting towards the left and drawing chin down towards left shoulder. Again, options here to have your right arm extended out onto the floor, facing your left hand at the back of your head. Adjusting if you need to. Again, one stretch might feel really different from the other. Checking in to see what you need here. And then breathing and settling into it. When you're ready, releasing, bringing the head back upright. Again, pausing for a moment to roll through neck, roll through shoulders. We'll bring the body back to stillness. Let's drop the left hand down onto the floor, and as we inhale, we'll take the right arm up and over towards the left side of the room, lengthening all along the right side of the body, rooting down through the right hip, lengthening up through the right fingertips. If you notice your right shoulder is dropping forward, see if you can draw it back so the shoulders are in line with the hips and the front of the body is open. You might choose to look forward or down towards your left hand or up towards the ceiling, whatever feels most comfortable on your neck. As we inhale, we'll lengthen up, and as we exhale, we'll fold. Let's come all the way back up through center, and we'll switch sides, dropping the right hand down onto the ground and then extending the left arm up and across towards the right side. As we inhale, we'll lift up, and as we exhale, fold. Continue rooting down through the left hip, reaching left fingertips away from the ground. Check the alignment of your shoulders over your hips. Take a couple of deep breaths here. Choosing to look in whichever way is most comfortable for your neck. And releasing, we'll come all the way back up. Let's make our way onto our hands and our knees, moving any props out of the way. Coming into our tabletop. Stacking shoulders over elbows and hips over knees. Let's spread the fingers nice and wide. Press down through the fingertips. You can either have your toes flat on the floor or you can tuck them under, whatever feels better for you. And we'll move through a few rounds of cat and cow. As we inhale, lowering the belly down, drawing shoulders back and looking forward. And as we exhale, rounding the spine, spreading the shoulders, looking back towards the knees. Using the inhale to lengthen the front of the body and the exhale to lengthen the back. Paying special attention here to the shoulder blades and the rib cage in the upper back as you move into cat. Really taking your time, making the movements as big or as small as you need them to be. And then we'll bring ourselves back to stillness and a neutral shape. And this time we'll take the breath in the opposite direction. So as we inhale, we'll arch through the back, drop the head down, press the floor away. And then as we exhale, we'll move into cow, dropping the belly, drawing shoulders back and looking forward. Inhaling to move up into cat. Breathing into the space between the shoulder blades, expanding the rib cage. And then exhaling for cow, dropping the belly, softening shoulders down and back. Let's bring ourselves back to stillness once again and pause for a moment. Notice how that felt in the body. And from here, with an inhale, let's take the right hand up towards the ceiling, opening the body towards the right side. As we exhale, we'll bring that right hand back down onto the mat, coming into tabletop. Inhaling, opening up. And exhaling, finding a neutral spine in tabletop. Inhaling once again. And coming all the way back. We'll do 2 more like that. And on your next exhale, instead of sweeping the hand back down into tabletop, we'll bring it behind the left wrist. Plant the right shoulder down and then let the head come down as well, coming to thread the needle. From here, you can relax your left arm down where it is, or you can walk your fingertips out towards the top of the mat, lengthening all along the left side of the body. As we breathe in, we'll reach the crown of the head away from the tailbone, drawing the tailbone up and back. And as we breathe out, we'll settle ourselves down into the shape. If the left arm is extended forward, let's bring it back to where it started and we'll press up into our tabletop, finding a neutral spine, pressing the floor away. And then we'll prepare to do the same thing on the other side. With our next inhale, sweeping the left hand open and up towards the ceiling. And then exhale, bring that left hand back down. We'll inhale, reaching up. And exhale, dropping that left hand down. And we'll do 3 more, taking your time. Focusing on opening all the way up, and then on finding a neutral spine, making tabletop an active pose just as much as the other part. Finally, after your last raise, we'll sweep the left hand behind the right wrist, planting the left shoulder down and then allowing the head to come down as well. You can relax the right arm down onto the floor, or you can extend those right fingertips forward. As we breathe in, we'll draw the tailbone up and back, finding length through the spine. As we breathe out, we'll focus on settling down into the pose, releasing tension from between the shoulder blades along the left side of the body, maybe even into the low back. And let's bring the right hand back to where it started if you moved it forward. And then we'll press up into our tabletop. Once again, taking the time to find a neutral spine. Press the floor away. From here, we'll take our knees a little bit wider than hip distance apart. So maybe the same distance as the outer edges of the hips or a little bit further. We'll keep the hips lifted up and then we'll start to walk the hands out in front of us, coming into extended puppy pose. So the chest and the forehead drop down towards the mat. Hip stays lifted up and fingertips reach forward. If it's uncomfortable to have your arms straight, you can always bend the elbows, crossing the forearms in front of you. And here again, as we inhale, we'll lengthen the spine, focus on reaching crown of the head away from tailbone. And as we breathe out, we'll focus on softening chest, forehead down towards the ground. As you inhale, you might find that you lift out of the back bend a little bit. That's great. As you exhale, find a little bit of softness, maybe settle in a little bit more deeply. From here, let's walk the hands back up towards the body, coming into our tabletop once again, stacking the knees under the hips once more. Spread the fingers nice and wide, press the tips of the fingers down. From here, we'll tuck our toes under and lift our hips up and back, coming into downward facing dog. Taking a moment to pedal out through the feet, bringing movement into knees, ankles, maybe giving the backs of the legs a little bit of a stretch. And then slowly we'll walk the feet towards the top of the mat, making our way into a forward fold. We'll have the feet about hip distance apart or a little bit closer. We'll have a pretty deep bend in the knees so that the belly can rest on the thighs or chest can rest on the thighs. Let the head hang down, maybe nodding the head yes or shaking the head no to release the neck. And you can either allow your arms to hang at your sides, or you might take hold of opposite elbows, or you might wrap your arms around the backs of your legs, whatever is most comfortable for you. Taking some time to allow your spine to decompress. Feeling your shoulder blades moving up the rib cage. And again, releasing through the neck by nodding or shaking. And when you're ready, releasing your arms back down. Let's bend the knees and sweep the hands out to the sides, and we'll come all the way up to standing. If you'd like, you can lift your arms up overhead, joining your palms and then drawing them down to heart center. We'll find our mountain pose, allowing the feet to stack underneath of the hips. We'll stand up nice and tall. Let's draw the shoulders up and down the back, drawing the shoulder blades together and then extending the arms out at the sides. Letting the fingers find some energy, stretching the center of the palm. As we inhale, we'll lengthen up, and as we exhale, we'll root down. From here, we're going to work on a balancing pose. You can stay on your mat, or if you need a little bit of assistance with your balance, you can come to a wall. When you're ready, we'll start by crossing the left arm over the front of the body and then looping the right elbow around the left. You can leave your arms as they are, or you can bring them into a bind in front of the body, bringing the backs of the forearms together. Maybe the backs of the hands touch or palms touch. If the arms are in the bind, just as we did on the floor, moving the elbows up and then moving the hands away from the face. You can choose to stay here, or you can come into the balance by shifting your weight over into your left foot, bringing a little bit of a bend to the left knee, getting lighter and lighter on your right foot, and then crossing your right leg over your left. So you might have your right toes touching down on the floor to assist you with balance. Again, if you were at a wall, you'd be leaning back against the wall here with the legs crossed. You can choose to stay where you are with your right toes touching down, or you can allow them to hover off the ground. Or you might tuck those right toes behind the left calf. Taking a moment again to check in on your arms, maybe lifting the elbows, maybe moving those hands away from the face. Taking one or two slow, deep breaths. And then stepping the feet down, standing up tall, releasing the arms up overhead, stretching the fingertips high, and then drawing hands down to heart center and releasing them down. Taking a moment to find equal grounding through both feet. And then we'll get ready to do the same thing on the other side. Taking the right arm across the front of the body and hooking the left elbow around the right. Again, you might stay here. If you'd like to come into the bind, bringing those arms back towards the middle of the body, lining up the backs of the forearms, and then either bringing backs of hands or fronts of hands to touch. Soften shoulders down, lift elbows higher, and move the hands away from the face. And you can stay right here, or if you wanted to take this into the balance pose, eagle pose, you can shift your weight over into your right foot, bringing a bend into the right knee, getting lighter and lighter on the left foot, until you're able to lift your left foot and cross it over your right. You might have your toes touching down on the floor for support. If you feel pretty comfortable where you are here and you want to take it a little bit deeper, you can bend your knees. Maybe let that left foot lift up off the floor. Maybe wrap the left toes around the back of the right leg. Remember, you can always use a wall for support if you want to. Bringing the attention back to the arms, focusing on that stretch between the shoulder blades. Breathing nice and slow. And then we'll release the legs down, release the arms up, reach those fingertips high. Draw the palms together and down towards heart center. Let's come back towards the tops of our mats. We'll inhale, reaching up high. Exhaling, we'll bend the knees and fold, coming into our forward fold once again. Pausing here. Again, you can leave your arms hanging at your sides, or you can hold on to opposite elbows or opposite wrists, or wrap your arms around the backs of your legs. Taking a moment to release the neck, nodding the head yes, shaking the head no. And then we'll release the hands back down onto the ground and we'll step back to downward facing dog. Pressing the floor away, pedaling out through the feet. We'll lower those knees down to the ground. Back into our tabletop once again. From here, let's move through a few rounds of cat and cow, choosing whichever breathing pattern we liked better from the start of the class. And bringing ourselves back to stillness, we'll come into child's pose. Two options. You can either take your knees as wide as the mat for a little bit more of a hip stretch, or you can keep your knees together for a little bit more of a low back stretch. Sitting the hips back towards the heels and then allowing the upper body to recline down. You can either extend your arms forward, making them a bit more active, reaching the fingertips, or making them more passive, letting the elbows bend. Or you can choose to take your arms back behind you, reaching your fingertips towards your toes. Breathing into the back of the body here. Allowing each inhale to fill you up, creating some space. And each exhale to bring you a little bit of softness. If you're completely comfortable in this position and you'd like to make this your final resting pose, you can stay where you are. Otherwise, if you'd prefer a different shape, making your way into that shape now. Maybe choosing to lay on your back or on your side, or choosing a seated position. Whatever works best for you. Whatever allows you to relax completely. This last pose is a pose of effortlessness, a pose of rest. A pose of release, allowing yourself to settle down completely into whatever shape you've chosen. Maybe allowing yourself to get heavier on the ground, settling into those points of support, those connection points, where the body touches down on the mat or on another part of the body or on a prop. Allowing yourself to take up as much room as you need. And then once you've found the shape that works for you, starting at the top of the body, working your way down, take a moment to scan and look for any areas where we can soften and release. Starting by closing the eyes or letting the gaze rest downwards, releasing the jaw open, allowing the muscles of the forehead to relax, allowing the tongue to release away from the roof of the mouth, softening the shoulders down, letting the arms hang heavy wherever they are. Continuing to work your way down any area where you feel there's still a little bit of tightness. Take a moment to find the support that's closest to that, the point of contact that's closest to that area, and really acknowledge to yourself that that support is there. Give yourself permission to release into it. If you have been focusing on controlling your breath, even letting that go, allowing your breathing to find a natural, comfortable rhythm for yourself. Perhaps allowing each inhale to bring you a sense of lightness, a sense of buoyancy, and each exhale to bring you a sense of heaviness and softness. And when you feel ready, we'll start to invite a little bit of movement back into the body. Gently wiggling fingers and toes, maybe circling wrists and ankles, or turning your head from side to side, moving in whatever way feels good for you. And we'll come all the way back to stillness. And moving slowly, taking your time, finding a seated position from whatever shape you're in, moving mindfully, making each movement like a little yoga pose. And once you've found a seated position, we'll ground down equally through both sides of the body, sitting up nice and tall. Let's bring our hands together in front of our hearts, sealing the outer edges of the palms and the fingertips. Thank you for joining me this afternoon and allowing me to guide you through this practice. From my light to yours, namaste.
Namaste.